Good morning, welcome to Morning Review. This is Kim Watson speaking on Wednesday, the 4th of May. Okay, looking at the euro dollar first, and from a daily perspective, we've put in a shooting star candle, which would suggest a reversal. We've got the potential for it to run off towards its weekly and monthly pivots, which are overlaying one another at 113.74-ish. 76 maybe, 76. So there is a potential of a continuation of this correction that started yesterday. Not a guarantee, but a potential. Now, we are currently below the daily pivot, which also has a possibility of being hit. If we see a break really of this sort of lower trend line, we could be playing towards that area. Certainly, it's plenty of resistance in the way, though. It may not be a particularly smooth direction. Looking at the pattern that may form, then if it gets towards there, well, we sort of may have had a sufficient retrace to continue to the downside. If it's going to roll over, it will roll possibly at the pivot or below, and we may then see a sort of further continuation of the day's play down towards that S1 and 100 MA. Just see how it may work out this market. But at the moment, bigger trends still sort of look like it was up on this, or intermediate trend looked like it is up, but it's already affected. Well, saying that from a daily perspective, you'd say the trend is still soundly up, but when you start looking at the alleys here, if you were to put a trend line across the highs, the lows there, which, well, it's partially sitting there yesterday anyway, if you put that trend line across there, we've broken that trend line. We've put in sort of certainly a lower high here and a lower low, so it does look a tad on the weak side. So if we can push up and make for the pivot, fine, but I would potentially be looking for shorts around that area. Cable, cable indeed. Let's start from the big picture here. Bearish engulfing key reversal bar yesterday. Very bearish. Again, got the monthly pivot below, so there is an ultimate, I say an ultimate, but it is a potential target and possible, quite reachable in a decent day's movement. We are at the moment seeing a bit of a move up. It's just testing on the 4-hourly the underside of that 50 MA. Now, the 50 MA is still facing upwards, still facing north, so it may suggest there's a bit more of a correction and it may not hold particularly well. But what you can see what we've done on the hourly basis is we run into the 21 moving averages. Now, seeing a correction from that already is whether or not if we can break those 21s again, I'd be looking for alongside back to the pivot. But again, with what we've seen here, I wouldn't be totally surprised if we see ourselves or find ourselves rolling down. We're just sort of at the lower side of that weekly pivot at the moment, the wrong side of the weekly pivot, effectively. So it's a more bearish side emphasis. If we break the lows, well, we've got to be a bit careful in this early stages. If we break the lows, it may just be a fake out for a break. But if there's certainly some momentum of that move, we could be straight on for an S1 and weekly S1 hit as well. So that's something to be watching for. Okay, dollar yen. Let's look at the big picture first, and well, it's yesterday managed to eventually put in a sort of some sort of spinning top looking candle. Again, may head up towards its weekly pivot and monthly pivot, which are both sitting above it. At the moment, it's making reasonable progress to that. It's already above the daily pivot here. If it can break the sort of the short-term trend that sits across these hourly tops of the hourly bars, this sort of ball flag sort of pattern that's being put in, if it can break that, well, maybe it'll be on for the R1 and weekly pivot, monthly pivot. Actually looks cleaner than most of the other pairs, really, potentially. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar again bearish. Well, it's normally quite a reversal, but it was already trending down. It managed to put a lower high in on the dailies here, and again another lower low. So really tracking its way down. Again, short term, we may see a bit of a retrace. We've got the daily pivot above us, which is possibility. 34 moving average and just made fall short. So really it's a case if we can break the 60-21s here. The exponential we've just fired away from. If we can break this area, possibly we could be up for that daily pivot. Again, with the others, if we start breaking down, well, we've got the S1 some way below us here, so we're sort of in between, but erring on the bearish side with the weekly, monthly, daily pivots all above us here. It's sort of erring more bearish than it is bullish at the moment. That's not to say we couldn't see a bigger retrace in this move. Okay, Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar. Well, before I look at the Canadian dollar, as ever, I'll go and have a look at what oil's up to. All right, okay, so oil's still in this sort of, I mean, yesterday it did eventually find some support off its weekly S1 level. Looks like it's coming back down for that at the moment, which could just allow the Canadian dollar to continue on its route. So let's have a look at the Canadian dollar and see what's doing big picture. First, daily perspective, we're a tad away from the monthly pivot, so it gives it a reasonable chance to get up to there, back into that daily 21, which has been constraining it most of the time. If you can break those levels, well, I mean, it is again a key reversal candle. So the previous day, very small range. Look at the huge range of yesterday's movement. A lot of these candles, a lot of these different currencies saw the dollar strengthen suddenly. Well, where can we go from here? Well, it's if you can push back above the monthly pivot, we could be on for the 34, 50 MAs, both looking across there. 34, particularly looking at the normal range of a bar, could be in sight. Not a lot else to say on that time frame. Looking at the hourlies, okay, so we've diverged into the hourlies at the moment. It is pushing up. We could end up a double divergence into that monthly pivot, so that could stifle the move to the upside a tad. But again, it really, your technicals go out the window if oil starts selling off any further, and we'll see the Canadian dollar push up. I'll keep on saying it says try. Position here where you're taking effectively, because it's not just a Canadian dollar, US dollar, you've got oil as a big factor to watch for what it's doing. Okie dokie. That's CAD, that's all of them. Right, let's look at else we got in data coming out today. We've got some PMI figures coming out. For the UK, we've got construction PMI, we've got some very low level services PMIs coming out, France, Germany, etc. It barely ever moves the market on those PMI figures aside of the construction PMI, but even that is generally a weaker PMI figure. But after yesterday's disappointment, if we see construction PMI coming off more than expected, I mean, it's expected to come in around about 54.1. If it fails and drops down a couple of percentage points, well, it might move the market and see the pound dropping again, but we'll see on that. It's certainly tomorrow's figure, the services PMI is more important, but we'll just see how the construction PMI pans out. And then we've got the ADP non-farm payroll change at 115. Again, there's so much looking at these numbers again now. So 115, we may see some reasonable volatility. And then nothing really until 3 o'clock when we've got the ISM non-manufacturing PMI, which is services PMI for the US. Slightly lesser figure for the US, as it much more influences the UK because it's a big part of our GDP, but it could still create some volatility in these markets, which are very fragile at the moment, looking at world growth. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. I hope you have a great day. May the 4th be with you, and I will speak to you tomorrow.